Welcome, everyone, to the Manifest Incredible Love Show. Today, we have an amazing international speaker and best selling author, Junie Moon. Hi, Junie, welcome.
Hi, so good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And for the audience watching, would you go ahead and give us a little bit more information about what you do and who you are?
Sure. Well, I'm the love coach helping people really break through patterns of behavior that sabotage their relationships or maybe keep them from relationships because they have a lot of inner chatter in their head that has them doubting whether it's possible for them, whether they're good enough, all that stuff that keeps us stuck and beating ourselves up. And I help people unload that baggage so that they really can have the love beyond their wildest dreams. And I help people with dating strategies as well. So we empty out the baggage and then we look at how do we actually get into a relationship that is in alignment with who wants that kind of relationship and what particularly are they looking for in that relationship. So I help with clarity as well.
I love that so much. And I know your experience comes from your own journey. And I'd love to tap into a little bit of your background story of of your own relationship and how you got here.
Yeah, well, just like everybody, I've had a life of lots of ups and downs when it comes to relationships. And for a large part of my life, I walked on eggshells in relationships. I was afraid to really speak my truth. I was a people pleaser. I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to be the good little girl and make sure it worked. And everything that I was told and I witnessed from my mother, from our culture about how a woman's supposed to be. You be the wife, you be the mother, all those things. And so I did a great job at showing up for everything that I was taught, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled because I wasn't really being me. I had masks on to look like I was happy. I micromanaged everything to make sure that nothing went south. And so there was a high price I paid, and it certainly hurt my relationship. I was in a 20-year relationship, and it it certainly impacted my marriage. Certainly impacted my son witnessing such an imbalance in power, and power in a healthy way, not in a like, I'm so strong, but just an equal partnership. And so I left the marriage. I was doing a lot of personal growth work, and it really showed me that I deserved better. I found my voice, I found my grounding, and I learned how to call in what I call next level love. And he's sitting over there right now. And so I've learned these tools, and now I help others break their patterns and have them really in their confidence and clarity and the ability to call in their divine right partner.
Thank you for sharing that. And as we all know, everyone who's listening, patterns matter so much in our subconscious. Um, and that was a similar experience that I've had in my relationships, just these subconscious patterns sabotaging my behaviors and also blaming my partner for things that weren't his fault. It was just my fault, projections and things like that. Can
Yeah.
you go into what patterns that you look for? What kind of patterns are sabotaging and unhealthy?
Yeah, and I want to piggyback on what you just said about the subconscious. Most of our brain is unconscious. Most of our wiring and everything that we've experienced, well, everything that we've experienced is in the unconscious realm, and only like 5% of our brain is actually awake and aware of what's going on. So, if we've had pain, if we've had heartache, if we've had betrayal, if things really got messy in our last relationship or we had our heart broken in some way, that's all still stored in our subconscious realms as well as our bodies. And so lots of different patterns can show up. Before I go into patterns, what I'd like to share is that these patterns show up because there's a part of us that's scared to get hurt again. There's a part of us that's like, "Oh my god, I don't want to fall down the same rabbit hole and be betrayed and cheated on, or I'm so scared that, I'm going to say the wrong thing like I did last time, or whatever it is. And so there's this part in the work that I do. I'm a shadow worker, and we look at the shadows, the part of us that we don't see anymore. It's like, oh, I better not be a bold person. Let me just throw that part away, or I better not speak my truth, because the last time I spoke my truth, somebody really said, put me in my place and said, who do you think you are, being so big and bold? So I'm a shadow worker, and I help people see what they can't see on their own, what's in shadow. And that's what's happening is we accumulate all these experiences, and then in this body of work called shadow work, there is this part we call the risk manager. And this part is watching all the time. Is it safe? Is this guy or girl going to be a good fit? Am I safe enough to open up my heart? Should I share this? And so this risk manager is kind of on high alert a lot of the times, because it's doing its job to keep you from pain. And that's where the patterns come from. That's where the behaviors come from. So if that part inside of you is going, uh-oh, I think there's a red flag. Uh-oh, I think he's not telling the truth. Oh, I better be. It's like, if that risk manager is sensing danger in any way, or maybe the danger is, uh-oh, she's about to open her heart again and she's going to get squashed. That risk manager is going to whip up strategies to to hold you back, shut you down, and keep you from the very thing you want. And so when you ask the question, what kind of patterns are there? There's so many different patterns, and it really depends on what your wounding has been. So if, like, for me, I was told so many times when I was growing up, you're too big, you're too bright, tone it down, you're too much. So my pattern was, let me be careful, not let me not express myself too much, let me be mindful about how much I share. So that was one of my patterns. And the cost, I wasn't really sharing my truth, I really wasn't sharing my full heart. So people have different patterns. Do you have a pattern that you could recognize inside of yourself? We all have patterns. Do you have one that
Absolutely.
might be like, oh yeah, I tend to do this in relationships, or I hold myself back in that way?
I definitely do. Something you said before I resonated with is holding in our truth and not showing who we really are. So I grew up in a household that my mother was a very dominant personality. So it was always her way. It was always what she wanted. And I thought, this is what love is supposed to look like. I'm supposed to obey her so that she would love me. And so that translated into my personal relationships growing up, of me not saying anything that I was supposed to obey and pretend that, like, I wasn't, who I was, just so I could be accepted by other people. And eventually
Yeah.
it started like festering inside. I'm like, I want to break out of this mold. I want to feel free. And slowly but surely starting to integrate, like, this is the clothes I like to wear. I'm just going to wear this clothes. And I
Mm.
want to do this activity, to the point where I'm like, now I voice my opinions because it just hurts so much to hold in those opinions or my thoughts.
Well, good for you, and thank you for sharing that. That was so amazing, and I really want to honor you for being so vulnerable and sharing your experience. And that was such a great example of what happens. We learn from our parents, we learn from our culture how we're supposed to be or what's not acceptable. And so at a young age, you were learning the rules of authority and relationship, and I better follow their rules. And as little kids, we have to some extent, because we're vulnerable and we need them to take care of us. Then we take those messages like, tone it down, you're too big, you're too bold. And I needed to do that because I was bullied terribly when I was a teenager. Well, it started actually at 9, but I was bullied terribly. So me being seen and expressing myself or raising my hand in class, that was dangerous. And so my risk manager was like, no, don't do that, because you've been told you're
Mhm.
too much. You've been told, that you're too bright. And if you do that, it's going to be big trouble. So I brought that into my adulthood and walked on eggshells, and I didn't express myself. So different and the same. So we got these messages, right? And then it was like, wow, this really hurts. I want to be able to share my, what matters to me and what doesn't, and that I matter. And that's the message a lot of times we get is we don't matter, or our needs don't matter, or what we have to say doesn't matter when it comes to overbearing parents, things like that. So it makes sense that there's pain because it's like we're not being fully who we are. And so it worked for us as kids, and then it stopped. And so kudos to you for figuring it out and trying things on and going, hey, I can express myself. Here's the thing, and I want to, maybe bring this to the next place in this conversation, is a lot of times when we have lost access, like to our voice, to the ability to express ourselves, and we squash it. Anything that we squash, it's energy that we're holding back. We're not being ourselves. It's going to come out in other different ways. I say it comes out sideways. So maybe we start saying things we don't mean. Maybe we become so pushy. It's like, no, I'm going to tell you what I want. It's like, so if we haven't been able to share what we want, we might actually overshoot, or we just continue to be the doormat. And so that's the challenge, is identifying what happens. Why are we acting in the ways that we're acting that hurt our relationships and our intimacy, or have us beating up on ourselves? And that's the first step, is understanding it. And then the healing is going, okay, wait a second, I don't want that anymore. And then transformational processes like I do, shadow work, to really rewire. So that old message of you can't be this, or you shouldn't be that, or be that good little girl, that volume just gets lowered. And then you get to really relax and be yourself and take all that stuff out of shadow and go, no, no, I want to be able to be angry if I'm angry without hurting somebody. Oh, no, no, let me express myself, because it's important for me to share who I am, and what's important to me. But we overshoot sometimes, and that's where it gets tricky, and that's where we sometimes have a lot of drama in our relationships.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And I like to call this recentering yourself and not giving our power away to external circumstances anymore, creating that safe space within, so that when you do express yourself, you know that it doesn't matter how other people feel about you. It's how you feel about yourself. It's how you want to portray yourself, and that you're not giving your power away to other people or other things that are no longer in alignment to what you want to stand for.
Right, right. And this is knowing our power, knowing our value. It's not about I'm stronger than you, or I'm going to power over somebody. It's really being able to take that stand and really be in alignment. And I love that you said about the centering, because that's kind of what we really want. We don't want to be in these extremes where I better not be like that, or then we go to the opposite end of the spectrum. Well, I'm going to show you that I'm special, I'm going to get 10 degrees, and then maybe I'll be good enough. There's all these different things that we do to offset the pain and the challenges that we've experienced our whole life. And then hopefully we find that middle ground so that we really can relax and be ourselves, and really love being ourselves, and not be worried what other people say. And if somebody does say something that we don't like, we don't have to get so triggered by it. We could be curious and go, oh, well, that's interesting. Well, I know my truth. That doesn't match. So that's not going to, it's like if I said, let's I'm really suck at, you're a unicorn. Well, you probably are a unicorn, but let's just say, I really suck at examples. You're a bicycle. Yeah, that's an easy one. You're a bicycle, and you're like, okay, she's really lost it. I'm not a bicycle. But if you have some issues around being a bicycle, and your mother said you're a bicycle your whole childhood, and then I come along and go, you know what, you're a bicycle, you might be like, I'm not a bicycle. But if you really know that you're not a bicycle, no big deal. And so that's it's a joke, but it's not, because that's what happens, is we have this wounding inside of us, and someone can go boo with a word like, oh, you're lazy, and I'm not lazy. But because you've been told that so often, or experienced lazy as a bad quality,
Yeah.
that's when you react. And inside the energy of laziness is the ability to slow down and relax and enjoy your time. But if you have laziness as being bad and put in shadow, how is that going to show up? It's going to come out sideways.
I love that analogy, that is just going to come out sideways. I always think of it as like an inner explosion, like it just explodes at one point. And you mentioned something that interested me before was how this can how this can affect your dating as well, like your dating and your relationships, how these subconscious, like being overreactive or even shying away, being extremely hurt, can affect these patterns in your relationships. Could you go into that for me?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a healthy relationship, if you're dating and you're carrying a big bag of all that, subconscious beliefs and experiences and unhealed patterns with you, how is that date going to go? It's like you have these glasses on, uh, that and they're not clear because it's all of your beliefs coming with you. And so if you've been, again, going back to the risk manager, if you've been hurt in the past, and we've all had issues with our hearts, and we're sitting at that date, and that risk manager wants you to stay safe. You might be thinking, I'm not good enough. Oh, I shouldn't have worn these pants. Oh, I didn't realize, he was going to be taking me to this restaurant or whatever it is. You're going to be so in your head. You're going to also be watching for red flags. Is this going to work? Is this going to work? Uh-oh, uh-oh. It's like your mind just keeps racing and racing and racing, and you're not able to enjoy the date. A lot of it, again, is the patterns of trying to stay safe. So if you've been told you're too much, you might be walking on eggshells on that date. What happens is, as we know, everybody's putting their best foot forward on that first date, second date, third date. We want to look the best we can. We want to be the best we can. We want to be loved and accepted and adored. That's true. We do. The thing is that we put up these facades to look good, to seem a certain way. And then, 3 months, 6 months later, those facades come down and you're like, whoa, like I didn't know that about you. And wow, you really have a temper or whatever. And and so when we haven't done the healing work, when we haven't really shined a light on why we're wired the way we are, why we're scared to be ourselves, why it's hard to really shine our unique light. When we are not comfortable in our own skin, that comes with us on our dates and in our relationships. And then we don't get to have that deep intimacy. Because what is intimacy? Into me, see. If you don't know what's inside of you and you don't know your truth and you're not feeling comfortable and able to open comfortably and safely, then you can't have intimacy. You don't let people in. So without having that clarity, without having those healthy boundaries, without knowing your value and being really solid inside yourself, you bring all of that into the dating realm. It's going to be tricky. And the other thing, and this is a huge piece, is if you haven't done the healing work, you are going to attract somebody that's going to kind of match what you need to have healed. The universe is so friggin' smart. So if you have an insecurity challenge, you're going to probably call in somebody that's going to poke that wound, whether they're going to be similar, where they're going to be very insecure as well, and you're going to see that in them. Or you're going to have somebody who's so overly confident and you're going to just feel like, oh, what's wrong with me? And a million other things that can happen. So we need to empty out the baggage. We need to have some really good, solid footing inside of ourselves so that when we do open to love, we do it fully, authentically, without apology. Like, this is who I am, and to relax and enjoy, because people are working way too hard when it comes to dating, and it should be fun. It should be fun. You're meeting some people, sharing who you are. It's fun. It should be fun.
I love that you mentioned that we energetically attract our match of what we need healed, because I realized this as a pattern before. Is I wasn't communicating, like I was afraid to talk about like my needs. So I attracted people that were not good at communicating either. And so when I finally stood up and said, "Hey, can we talk about this problem that I'm having? Like, can we actually sit down and talk about it's no longer fun and games anymore. It's like getting serious." And avoidance. Like I would get no response on my text message. I would just be like, I would get, oh no, I'm busy, or I don't think it's gonna work anymore, or like I would get all of these avoidance things, and I'm like, what is this? What is, and I had to learn how to step up and say, you know what, this is not for me, because now I want to talk about issues. And before it was stepping on eggshells and I didn't want to talk about issues,
Yes.
and how that progressed in each interaction. I get clearer and clearer because the external world is giving me an energetic match of what I need to get to be healed.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Exactly. And back to the risk manager again. If the risk manager knows communication's challenging for you, how perfect is it to find somebody that sucks at it too, because then you don't have to deal with it, then you're safe, and it's like, okay, good, I have intimacy problems, they have intimacy problems, I have a, a self-expression or confidence problem, oh good, they do too. Now we could both be in the same wound, and of course it doesn't work because we're not growing, and then there's pain, and then there's challenge. And so we do attract that which is unhealed inside of us, one way or the other. And that's the cosmic support, in my opinion, to help us really come home to the fullness and richness of who we are. Because we're not broken, we're not missing anything. We just feel pain and something's not working. And we think a lot of times, oh, if I can only find this person my other half. It's like, no, you want to be able to be fully you, whole, as you are, and know it, and then have somebody enhance your life. That's the goal. That's the goal. And so when we're missing a part, or at least it feels like we're missing a part, then we're going to draw it in and we go, oh, they complete me. No, it's not that they complete you. That part is helping you heal the part that isn't complete, that doesn't feel solid, like confidence. Like, oh, he has so much confidence. Now I can feel safe. Well, now I'm learning from him how to have confidence in a healthy relationship, that is.
Oh my goodness. I love that you brought that up too, because we tend to look at other people and we're like, man, I wish I had that confidence. Man, I wish I was pretty. And that was me. I used to do that. I looked at all the girls who were beautiful and confident, and they were like snappy, and they said what they said and they did what they did. And I was like, I want to be like that. But when we recognize that trait in other people, it's like that's what's missing in us. Like, it's not exactly missing, it's just we haven't learned how to nurture that part of ourselves so that we can feel safe expressing that. And so even finding attraction or attracting partners who have certain traits that you'd like, it's not about them completing you. Like you said, it's not about them completing you. It's about them being, showing you how to do it, and that they're safe doing it. So it gives you kind of that validation, and that it's okay for you to do it too kind of mentality. And to,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you brought that up too. We call that a golden shadow. When you spot something in someone else that's like, "Oh, that's so wonderful. I wish I was more like that." If we say, well, 12 steps, if you spot it, you got it. That's the same thing here. If you see a quality in somebody else, something that you really admire, it's something that just hasn't been fully expressed or honored within yourself. And, years ago, I was terrified of speaking in public, terrified. And here I was wanting to facilitate groups and, and speak and run workshops. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm terrified. And so I would look at people in certain communities that I was in, and I'd be like, wow, I want to be more like her. And I want to be more like her. And I was like, okay, well, what is it about her that I want? And then I was able to hone in on those qualities. And then when I started doing the shadow work and really owned those parts that had been suppressed and pushed down, I was able to come back to that energy and go, oh, I can do that too. And I can stand in front of groups. And now I mean, literally, you could plop me on a stage of thousands of people. I haven't done thousands, but I'm pretty darn sure I'd be fine. I've been on a stage, virtual stage of thousands, but yeah, yeah. So when we can really clean out and really know how valuable we are and deserving we are of a great life and partner, and get our needs met and all that stuff, it's such a game changer. take all that, go on a date, it's a completely different experience than, oh gosh, is he gonna like me? I don't want to say the wrong thing. Oh, can I trust him? Like that's the first freaking date. Enjoy it. Get to know each other. Don't stress.
Can we pivot into dating for a little bit? Because the interview is coming up to an
Sure.
end, and I'd love to get some tips and tricks on your perspective on dating and like what to look out for.
Yeah. Well, I think the first most important thing about what to look out for, you got to know who you are first. So many people put the cart before the horse and they get on a dating app and they're like, I'm going to go find my person. And then they find themselves in a pattern of dating somebody that looks different, seems different, and they're the same person. So the first step, if you want to have success in dating and to be able to spot what you don't want, is you got to know what you do want. You have to really know your deal breakers and what's most important to you and where is there wiggle room. So for example, smoking cigarettes. I love smoking cigarettes, but I haven't smoked in a long time, and I have no intention of getting that habit again. So what was a total deal breaker? I would never date someone who's a cigarette smoker. Just too risky for me. I wouldn't do it. Deal breaker. No gray area there. Um, yeah. So to have success in dating, you really need to start with you. Empty out and get really clear about the kind of relationship you want. Take time dreaming about what you would love to call in. I have a friend of mine, colleague, who made a list of 100 qualities she wanted in her partner. And she met this amazing man, and then she went back to her list and she was blown away by how she had almost every single one. Seems kind of out there, seems kind of extreme, but that exercise had her get so clear about what kind of person, you know, do they want children? Do they not want children? Do they like to travel? Are they homebodies? Do you know, like what is important? Because when you could then honor what's important for you, you're not going to just start going out with somebody that doesn't match you. So that to me is the most important part of dating, is get solid inside yourself and know what you want in a relationship. And if you don't, I always say do dating research. Get out there, get your feet wet and see what you like and what you don't like. Bottom line is, if you look back at past relationships, you know what you don't like. And now you know what you do like. And then you can have those new glasses on when you go out or when you start texting people to see, they're still hung up on their ex, or, ooh, they're really edgy there, or, you know, or they haven't done the work or whatever it is. Or, wow, they're really responding and they're texting me and they're being so lovely. And, you know, so that's one of the hugest things to successful dating. Well, those two, knowing yourself and knowing, you know, and then spotting and cutting fast if somebody's not a match, because people stay too long sometimes because they want that connection and love.
Yes, that's thank you for sharing that. One of the biggest things you said was like the list and seeing how much matches, and then mentioning that focus on what's really important to you, because I think a lot of people go based off like the romantic Disney movies, and it's like perfect scene. And in my own relationship, it's like my husband's not 100% perfect, but where he is perfect, it meets all of the areas that are important to me, and the wiggle room, the areas that are not perfect, it doesn't matter because I don't need him to be like an exact replica of what I want. I get to
Exactly.
learn from him, from the areas that he may be good at and I may not be good at, and maybe I don't enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, exactly. My partner and I, we are so different in so many arenas, but the most important things are there and they're solid. So you need to know that. And if it's not what you want, don't stay. There's lots of other fish in the sea, and there are great apps like I love OkCupid. That's my favorite. OkCupid is a dating site, and yes, pretty much everywhere as far as I know. And that's how I met my guy. They have, you know, you answer a ton of questions. They give you an algorithm. We're 99% compatible. It's a good start. You know, if somebody was under 90%, it'd have to be a really freaking awesome profile. But typically, if it's under 90%, there's something really hugely different in how I view the world or what's important to me. And I need to pay attention to that.
Wow. That brings me to the next question is what are some things that people should look out for in terms of like what's important? Like,
Start with what makes you happy and envision your future. Like where are you headed? What does it look like? Um, like I love traveling and my work is pretty much virtual completely now. And my partner has work that is mostly virtual and becoming more virtual. If he had a 9 to 5 job and he wasn't able to ever travel or take time off, that could be challenging. Would I not be with him? I'm not sure about that. But if it was a deal breaker, if I was like, no, I want to be able to travel here and live here for a month or whatever, it's like you really have to know what's important to you. So journal, dream, meditate, look. Here's another way to do it also is think about the people that are partnered. What is it about their partnership that you admire? Oh, they always go out Friday night for date night. Oh, he's always so, great at, bringing her flowers or taking care of the kids or whatever it is. What do you admire in other couples? And is that something that's important to you? So you got to know who you are and you got to know where you're headed. And look, I'm not 100% sure where I'm headed. Every day it's a whole new adventure. I'm like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I didn't know that. But overall, I have a good sense of who I am, where I'm headed, and what's important to me. So, and it's because I've lived and I've discovered, oh, I like that. I don't like that. I like that. I don't like that. And that's how you make your list.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I know you have a free gift for the audience members who are participating today. Could you share that with us?
Yes. Firstly, let me just say that this workbook can be life changing, like literally life changing. We've been talking about the risk manager and the behaviors that sabotage the very thing you want. This is an ebook. It's not a quick fix out there. It's like everybody wants a quick fix. How do I stop this pattern? So, I created this book, 15, 20 minutes. If you're really gung ho and you really want big transformation, really dive in. Because there's an opportunity in this book to meet your risk manager and get it to work for you, not against you. To be able to learn why you have these patterns and actually learn how to break them and shift literally while you're doing this workbook. So it's called Find Fabulous Love After 40. Don't worry about the after 40 if you're younger than 40. Don't worry about it if you're a man and I'm talking to a woman. The content will speak to you about why you have these patterns, what is it you're wanting, and how to actually get the results, the confidence, the boundaries, the whole package, which is the name of my book, loving the whole package, and then going, hey, this is what I'm bringing into the world and into my partners.
I love that. Thank you so much, Junie, for sharing your workbook with us and everybody who is tuning in today. As you know, I will put the link below the video so you can have access. And make sure you come back and join me tomorrow as we have so many more amazing interviews to support you on your love journey. Thank you for coming, Junie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You're doing such great work.
Thank you.